First of all, are you excited for this race?
Absolutely. Yes, this is the great opportunity to find new representation for the 17th District, and I'm excited to be able to serve people at a higher capacity past being a county board chair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first question I should ask you is, what have you learned from being on the county board?
Well, I learned that being on a county board and dealing with government is a lot different than running your own business. So we've done that for quite some years. And, you know, in that situation, you just make decisions. And in government, it takes time. And they're definitely a different process. And we really was just talking today to the county administrator about, you know, finances and what those budgets look like. And they look very different. Just government is a whole different machine. So learned a lot that way. I'm sure there's tons to learn yet, but I'm willing to figure those things out.
And how do you think you would be able to move that into the 17th Congressional District and what you're able to do there?
Sure, yeah. So, you know, obviously we are working on things like economic development in the county, figuring out zoning and different policies that help support the district and make it stronger. And, you know, with that same experience, taking that to the 17th District, lots of opportunity there. Of course, Carroll County is not a huge county, but the 17th District has a lot of opportunity to grow and to be more successful economically, I feel like.
And you've been here for 27 years here in this area.
Yep.
I want to talk about just being here for the past 27 years.
Sure.
What has it been like? I mean, just tell me about your experiences.
Sure. So yes, I grew up on a farm in Greenville, Illinois, so south of here. Grew up with hogs and cattle. Went to the University of Illinois, met my husband. This is his family's farm that we're standing on right now. And we actually lived a mile up the road, which we own that farm as well. That's where we started. And we have cattle up there as well. But we decided to farm more when the kids were small. He's an insurance agent about 2 miles up the road. He's an agent up there. And because of my experience with farming already, always helped my dad do everything. We decided to take this on. Instead of me working a job outside of the home, we just took on more acres, some cattle, and then in the meantime, we've bought more acres just to kind of fill that. So I've primarily ran the farm. My husband loves the cattle, of course, that was where he came from, and he likes to work with them. I've done my year's worth of doing chores every day, but him and my son are doing those more so right now. And I have a son home. I have a son that's coming home in May after he graduates from the University of Illinois as well. And, you know, they're filling the voids that I had been working outside and doing. And now I'm able to go meet people within the district and help figure out how do we fix this area.
This being such a big part of your life, can you just tell me about the cows? Like, I mean, I'm a city guy. I'm not necessarily from this area. So can you just tell me about them?
Absolutely. So what we got back here right now are cows that are calving. We calve primarily January to April, maybe the 1st of May. But along with farming and everything, it's pretty simple-minded, but there's a lot of technology that goes into farming, and we use that in our tractors and in planting, but we also use it in our cattle. We synchronize our cattle and AI groups of them. So this would be our second group of AI cattle. So we know we're going to have, say, 17 calves or so within a week.
Wow.
So we do that a couple times, and then the rest are pasture bred. So, but you know, obviously these cows are starting to calve. We have a pen over here that have calved already, and then we have some out on our corn stalks behind here, and they'll be a little bit longer before they calve. So, you know, just this is how we've done it in spring, mostly calving. We've done fall before too, but we've tried to centralize. We've got cameras, we've got good bedding, we've got good pens to be able to do that. So we've simplified our life a little by doing this.
From farming, what do you think you can take into what you know into the Illinois Congressional District?
Sure.
17.
Yeah, I mean, with farming, with owning any business, but farming is a business where every day you encounter probably a problem or a challenge, and you are tasked with figuring out how to solve those problems. So whether it's you know, equipment breaks or things just don't go as planned. If you're doing something on a farm, you can bet that that's going to happen in that day. This fall, actually, I had been posting some stuff, and people are like, oh, you had this breakdown and you had that breakdown. I'm like, here's the story. If you're farming and something didn't break down that day, you probably weren't doing anything. So it's a good problem to have. It means you're getting something done, but it also, it's kind of one of those challenges of, like I said, I believe it's not just farming, it's running a business. You always are going to have something that you thought it was going to go this way, and it changes. And so now you have to redirect and figure out, well, okay, what are my options? How do you figure it out? And I think you can take that to government as well. You reach out to people and you talk to them, and what are the issues? And then not being so quick to decide what the answer is, but logically figuring out how those affect people, how those affect economy, and try to find the best one. Is someone going to be right all the time? Absolutely not. But I think if you're willing to take the time and really study it, we'll be right more than we're wrong.
What I'm hearing a lot is like problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solving is something that you've learned, I
Yep.
feel like. So why is problem solving so important, not only in your life and what you've built, but also in government?
Sure. You know, with all things where people are involved, we have to learn how to have good conversations, have to figure out, you know, once again, what are the real problems, what are the real concerns, and focus on those and help benefit the people that they're affecting. So, you know, as a mom, even, you know, moms solve problems absolutely every day. Those are always ever-changing situations when you have kids and families. But we have to figure out, how do we have good conversations? How do we look at all the alternatives and not be quick to judge or figure out without knowing all the details? I feel like that's very important, and that's important on a farm, and it's important with your kids, or just, you know, like I said, we run a business as well, so we have to know what those alternatives are and options are, so that we can make educated decisions that make sense for the majority.
Something I've seen a lot in interviews, at least, is the cost of things increasing in prices. So what would you be able to do you think, to kind of help alleviate the rise in costs?
Sure. Yeah. One of the issues that I see front and center as an issue with cost is energy. We definitely have an energy crisis going on right now. Those have stemmed from anywhere to the Green New Deal, which created subsidies for potentially, you know, green energies that maybe wouldn't have survived without subsidies. And with those, in pushing coal power out, it's required fees to go up, but also that coal power to energy to go away, which is one of our higher producing energies within the state of Illinois. So, you know, we really have to look forward to how do we fix that energy shortage by looking at all of our, once again, looking at all of our options. Like, is it coal coming back or solar, or is it nuclear? Like, those are two of our bigger producing energies right there. So we have to really look at those. But how do they affect the long-term cost of things? I mean, it's really kind of like a domino effect. When our energy costs are high, and that's energy as well as fuels, obviously trucking costs go up. And when you're producing, say, food, that's a cost that we're concerned about. You know, to produce that product from the field to actually being in the manufacturing, packaging state, you know, energy costs within that. It takes a lot of natural gas in manufacturing, if that cost is high, and then once again back to trucking. So if we can bring energy costs back down to an acceptable level where we used to be a year or two ago, I think we can make waves on the other stuff as well, because once again, that's just a domino effect right into those other options. You know, that's a place to start.
Right. And obviously, I mean, you can't do it all yourself. It's the people, and I feel like we've talked about multiple different times, like talking with people. So what's the importance of like getting out, talking with the people actually in the district?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people in the district are who I would be representing. I'm not looking at things that I think are the most important things, which I want to see what the district itself think are the most important things. And like with agriculture, I feel I align. The 17th district is highly supported by its largest economic supporter. And so that's important. And even if people aren't in the field or they're not feeding the cows, they are definitely affected by the agriculture within the district and how it supports some of those other economic pieces within towns and cities in the district. So I think we align there and in other ways.
How did you get into welding?
You know, I took ag class. Obviously, I was in ag and FFA and enjoyed those. And of course, it was when we had really good hands-on stuff. And I'm sure there's some schools that still do as well. But we got to weld and we got to cut metal. And I really thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's how I started.
Well, I guess a good question off of that is, you mentioned school, and a lot of that you've been talking about has been with education and the right for parents to choose what type of education.
Sure, absolutely.
Why is that so important for you?
So I went to a public school growing up, and my mom was a teacher at a public school. My husband's mother was a teacher at a public school. That's what we knew. We brought our kids, and they went to public school initially. We had a few issues where, you know, academically our school was on the watch list and financially was on the watch list. We had some discipline problems in our school that we just wanted to figure out, how do we help fix this? I even put together a state and senator town hall at our school, just to kind of like, funding wise, what do we do? How can we help? What are our options? Which was hard, as we know, sometimes when it's already appropriated or whatever, there's not a lot to do until the next round. But dealing with the school itself, how do we help fix this? The answer was, well, we just can't do anything. And that led me to, well, that's not a very good answer for me. I can do something. So our family with another two families they each had two kids, so it was 7 kids altogether. We decided to homeschool the next year, not really knowing what we were going to do. Honestly, absolutely enjoyed homeschooling. Our kids learned fast. We were able to do some really good field trips and fun stuff. And the kids showed cattle as well. So it gave us more time for them to work on cattle because they could get stuff done pretty quickly when they were doing it on their own. So one thing that I honestly probably wish we'd done a little earlier, but the older kids were at a level, they were going to 8th grade. They were wanting to play sports, and we weren't able to play sports locally. So there was a Christian school in Fulton that said, sure, we'll let you play sports with us. And so the kids really started to build relationships there. I didn't really want to relearn calculus, so we decided to send them to that school, the Christian school in Fulton. And that as well was a really great experience. So what it helped me understand was that there can be, we need strong public schools, number one, but 2, we also need options for people that maybe that's not the answer for them or their kids, because people learn in different ways, and some families need different options, and helping support that would be a great asset. And I think it also builds stronger schools because there's competition involved. When people get to choose where they send their kids, those schools have to be educating our kids well and doing a good job. So I think that's something that parents should be able to choose. And as a taxpayer myself, how do we help those tax dollars follow my kids instead of maybe I'm paying into a tax base and then I'm also paying a tuition or for homeschool curriculum or whatever. I just think we have to keep our minds open to there's a lot of options out there, and not everyone's the same for everybody.
Not one size fits all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I think that's definitely, you can use that with almost any sort of situation. And something that I've seen you talk about similarly with is faith, that you are big on faith, but it's also a great country because we get to choose what type of faith you follow.
Yes.
So why is faith so big for you in your life?
Yeah. I'm a Christian. I grew up a Christian. I have a strong faith. And that's important to me, and it's important to my moral foundation, but, also things that direct me through life and just, raising my kids and things like that. That being said, I do think we live in a great country where, we aren't being penalized for believing something different than what we're being told to believe. I think that's really important, and what really the country itself was founded on, because they were suppressed when they came to this country. So that's something I want people to feel like they have that choice. That's a great thing. We live in a great country that allows that. I think as a faith-filled person, it's important to me, once again, to listen to what people have to say, to keep an open mind about what they're saying, and to show kindness and love, even when we disagree, because sometimes we don't agree and we don't align the same way, but we always show, I might not agree with you, but I accept who you are, and I accept that maybe you think differently than I do. So I do think that's important. Like I said, I'm firm to my foundational beliefs and morals, but I don't think there's any room for violence and anger toward people because we don't align. Then have a conversation, and maybe at the end of the day, agree. We don't disagree. We're going to just disagree on this for now. But no one's ever going to totally align. I was talking to somebody the other day, and on someone you might support as a candidate, you're never going to 100% align with anybody. That would be unheard of. Mm-hmm. Can you align at 80%? That's what's important.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things within our country, within the district, we align on 80% of the things and the issues. It's the things that are to the far right and to the far left that people aren't aligning on. And I think we really need to focus on what we do agree on, what's the most important to the 80%.
And I guess since we're talking about it, what do you see as the most important for that 80%?
I feel like it's cost of living and safety. I think that's something that people really, when I talk with people, are concerned about. If people can't make a living, if they can't feel comfortable, if they don't feel like they can move up, and once again, that's a foundational thing of living in the United States of America, is that you get to come here and you get to grow, and you have upward potential like you don't have that in some countries. And so I think that's very important. But if people don't have money in their pocket, or they don't feel like they have opportunity to grow, they feel stifled, and they probably feel a little angry. I think we have to figure out how to find opportunities for people and put them back into that mindset of, if I work hard enough, if I do enough, if I find opportunities, I can do better in the future. We all have potential to grow.
One thing that I did also see in a few of your interviews was like the four F's that I've seen: the faith, family, farming, and future. How do you combine all of those into what you want and what your constituents want in the district?
Sure. Faith, like you say, I'm very faith-based, but also just taking those skills that you have with being a faithful person and taking those on. Family, obviously, raised my kids in a Christian home, but just with good moral values and guided to make good decisions, but also ask questions and figure out, you don't always go with what's just said. You have to listen, and you have to be discerning, and when you're not sure if you're getting the right answer, you ask questions, and that's okay. It's important to ask questions. Farming, obviously, that's something we do with our family, and is important to me. We both grew up doing that with our families. It is a business, but it's also a great way just to raise kids. It's the one of those jobs you can take your kids to, which is so cool, and they get to learn with you as you're doing it. So I think it's just a really neat way of living, and which then leads you to future, obviously, which would be your kids being able to do that. And there's less and less farmers every year. I feel very fortunate that I have some kids that really want to be involved in farming and agriculture. I think that's very important. Farming, in essence, is national security. It's something that's important to our whole nation, and really less than 2% of the population farms, and it's decreasing. So it's a skill and it's a lifestyle that people are moving further and further away from. And most people, probably when I was in school, they might have been related to farming. Of course, I lived in a rural area, or they were a generation or two away from farming. Like they had, my grandpa farmed or whatever, and you hear that a lot. But we're getting further away from that, and people don't understand it. So I do think it's important as farmers and agriculturalists, industry, to educate people on what's happening and make them understand that's a good thing. I think people that were associated with before realize it was a good way of living and a good way of doing things. It's just that's not the population anymore, and it's hard to farm financially, mostly. You have to have all the equipment to do it. Then you have to farm enough acres to be able to pay for that equipment to do it, and then just the time commitment and work. It's normal for us to work every day of the week, but we don't. Along with that, we do with our family. So you don't think of it as much about working, but it is something people get into a rut of when they farm. And we have cattle that are beef cattle, but people that dairy, it's an everyday, 3 times a day sometimes occurrence. And so it's not always easy, but it's a good way of living. And I think we want to lead our future into that, but also make sure that our kids like them, that want to retain the farming that their families have done before them, that they can do that, because it's hard to do that and find the financial backing without. And if someone wants to get into it, doesn't have any of that, we're able to help our kids into farming. If people don't have that, it's a hard leap unless they find somebody to kind of mentor them and bring them in. So it's something we really need to look at, making sure people can do.
And how do you think you can do that?
There are programs through the USDA and the FSA office that will help with smaller loans to get started. That's a great program. There's sometimes even Ben loans that are storage loans. We actually use a storage loan to improve our facilities. That was last year, I guess. So it's something you apply for and you see if you're able to do that. But it helps you kind of do that at a better interest rate. Some of the issues with those that I would like to see probably improved is some of the red tape that it takes to get through them. And I've talked to other people, obviously, actually our boys have used that to buy some property together, a small acreage that they just wanted to try to start investing in. But it's a lot of red tape, and by the time when there's opportunity to buy ground, the paperwork you got to get through, unless you got somebody that's really willing to work with you to take that time and let you get through that process, the land's gone before you even get a chance. So they had that opportunity through some people we knew that they bought that from, that allowed them that time. But for some people, they just want to sell it, and it's going to be to the next higher bidder. How do you give incentives also to sellers to sell to someone who is young? That's an opportunity. Maybe you give them a tax credit or whatever. If they do that, there's options out there. I'm sure we could talk it over the kitchen table and find all kind of opportunities when you would talk to people in agriculture and farming. But I definitely think there's options out there, and we can find opportunities.
For sure.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get into just what do you think sets you apart from the other candidates, even the Republican candidates?
Sure. Agriculture, clearly. I definitely have the stronghold on that, growing up in it, living it, being it. I think also, as far as the Republican candidate, I have more governmental experience being on the county board, going through some programs to help me understand what it takes to run for an office and to work with those different areas in order to get there. Also, once again, the Republican side, age. Not every woman wants to say age is her opportunity, but I have more I'm a little older and I've had more experiences, and age probably gives me a step up, and just the different experiences I've had, worked through, really give me opportunity there. So, and then another, obviously, as far as the Democrat opponent, being seated right here, living here 27 years, I'm from Illinois 100%. I think that's important, and having kids, having a family that I've had to work through these problems with schooling, and I think that just gives me opportunities that potentially my other opponents don't have the same experiences with. I think, and just understanding safety from a woman's perspective. I mean, obviously, I'm sure men feel unsafe sometimes too, but living in areas where you feel like, are your kids safe? Are you safe? Those are things I worry about every day, especially when it comes to my kids. So just figuring out how to deal with those and understanding that's a real concern for a lot of people.
Something I've obviously noticed is that the 17th Congressional District can lean blue. So, and having an incumbent in the chair right now can be somewhat hard to go up against. So how do you think that you can kind of put yourself above and beyond to get yourself to that position?
Sure. So, we have gone to a blue candidate in the last, obviously, couple before that as well. But the margins are super close. And in essence, we really are a higher population state of Republicans than what it shows up at the polls a lot of times. And we as Republicans need to get more Republicans out there to vote. Some people have given up. They feel defeated potentially, that maybe their vote doesn't count, or that it doesn't matter if they go to the polls, but it does. Every vote counts, and the last midterm when Esther Joy King was running, she was 4% of flipping that district. So it's a very flippable district. Sometimes it's getting people just to show up to vote, and I think if we all pull together and we do that, we have opportunity to flip it red more than you would think.
I mean, coming up on March 17th here, how do you get those people out to the polls?
Reminding people, I think we do need better, and that goes for both sides, better word of mouth to say it's important for everybody to vote, and that's how you get your voice. And I'm always a component of saying I can't complain if I don't vote. You really need to show up, and you need to make sure that your voice is heard, and sometimes you lose at the end of the day, but it's your right to do that as a citizen, and I think you really have to make sure you're utilizing that and taking that opportunity. And some days your candidate might win, and some days they might not, but at least you took the opportunity that you're given and you used it.
Are you hopeful for this upcoming primary into everything that's to come with the election?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think we've got good opportunity. I've got good reception throughout the district, have a lot of backing, and know I can do really great things. And then going into the general, we have a lot of opportunity. And I do feel like some people have felt underrepresented under our current incumbent. I feel like they have felt like they haven't been heard, seen, or answered. And that is a spot where, once again, as a service-hearted member of society, where I've obviously mostly done things at no cost. Obviously working as a chair for the Carroll County Board doesn't pay a lot. You're doing it because you want to serve the people and you want to see the best things for the area. So that's why you do it. And I've coached teams and I run organizations, and I've done that because I want things to be better and good and have opportunity for people. And those are the sorts of things that I want to take, and I want people to feel heard, because really at the end of the day, when people have concerns or problems, whether you can change anything or not, people want to be seen and they want to be heard. And if you can give them that opportunity and do your best to follow through, like I said, you don't always get the results at the end of the day because sometimes we're limited on what we can do. But what we can do is listen and hear and hope that we can change something for them.